Through the first 20 pages of Lost in Place growing up absurd in suburbia, Mark Salzman feels no need to ease the reader into his personal life story. In 20 pages, he fits in every odd, quirky, weird, but also awesome and interesting interest he had growing up. During his childhood, Mark Salzman spent his time jumping from project to project, pursuing his trademark habit, the obsessive pursuit of unrealistic goals. Whether that means planting the seeds for his adolescent-long dream of becoming a kung fu master, sitting inside a box for over 3 hours at a time on his way to becoming an astronaut, or turning the swamp in our front yard into a platypus fruit bath and armadillo sanctuary, the young Mark Salzman never ceased finding something to do. On one level, there's no doubt that Mark Salzman is trying to exploit childhood naivety. He tells a wonderfully entertaining story about his crazy journey through growing up. You know, part of being a child is doing stupid and playful things to pass the hours of the day. While for me that meant building forts and creating elaborate setups with all my toys, for Mark Salzman that meant becoming a kung fu master and training to be an astronaut. But despite the playful tone with which Salzman describes his boisterous childhood, he also seems to be struggling with his own identity. Weaved in with deep Zen lessons and quotes are short but important explanations for why he goes through these crazy phases. I want to read a passage from page 8 where he says, "The Buddha himself abandoned a comfortable life because he could not stand the hypocrisy of being a chubby prince when there was so much suffering all around him. He made himself homeless and destitute first, and then sought nirvana because he figured that it was worth seeking only if it was available to even the poorest person on earth. I, on the other hand, wanted to become a Zen master because I hoped perfect enlightenment would make me more popular, specifically more dateable. As the youngest and shortest boy in my class, I was convinced that I would go to my grave without having sex unless I did something extraordinary with my life." Although the tone is very light and funny, Salzman clearly reveals a second dimension to himself as a person. He is short and not confident in his own abilities, and almost thinks of himself as a loser. He uses these wacky interests to try and stand out in the crowd in hopes of becoming more popular and dateable. Even though he doesn't show much concern in his emotion, Salzman seems to be having an internal struggle over how he's grown over the years. I think that his natural curiosity and effort to be better becomes more and more apparent as the book goes on, but Salzman's initial struggles are clearly laid out in the first few pages of the book. However, one of Mark Salzman's problems, and maybe a gaffe in his reliability, is that he feels totally and utterly alienated by his parents. As he begins the quest to become a kung fu master, his parents are not fully supportive. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a determined young acolyte prepared to go through anything to achieve physical and spiritual mastery. But my parents, catching glimpses of me when I had to run upstairs to the bathroom, saw something else. The lumpy powdered hat, the purple pajamas, and the clouds of smoke that appeared behind me whenever I opened the basement door convinced them that I was headed for a career as a finger cymbal player in airport lobbies. Salzman also describes his father as being a natural pessimist who expected the worst as a matter of course. Maybe it isn't his father who's such a pessimist, but Salzman himself. He shouldn't be so hard on his parents. If my kid was spending huge numbers of hours of his life training to become a Zen/Kung Fu master and learning to be an astronaut, I might be a little apprehensive too. Although at this early stage in the book and in his life, Salzman is a little weird but also confused, there's no doubt that over the course of the book and his high school experiences, Salzman works out a lot of his issues.